My goodness, long time. Cam, how now? Oh, it's so good to see you after such a long time. How have you been? Thank you so much for joining me again. And one of the still few people that still call me a Bosch. Thank you so much for joining. I've been following all the amazing things you've been doing on social media. Good to see you. Good to see you. That's one of my favorite big sisters, Kemi. Thanks for joining me on my 19th edition of Young and Strong. I can't believe it. It's been such a journey since January this year, since I've been doing this. And it all started like, yes, we're going to do this. God put that in my heart. And suddenly it took off and I've had such amazing people. Yes, I can see my guest has come on. Hi, Marwa, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us today. Yes, it's been amazing. I mean, I look back and I can't believe, we've done so much this year. From the beginning with Abby, was it on the 6th, the 12th of January? And we're here. My goodness, I've got my big sister here, Antinka. Thank you so much, all the way from Canada. Thank you for joining me on this live when I'll be talking to another amazing young adult. Young and Strong has been going on, like I said, since 12th of January. My guest today will be my 19th. Hello, Minister Muewa, I see you. Thank you for joining. Oti, I can see you. Thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, giving a brief history of what's been happening, Young and Strong. This is a vision God put in my heart. I think it was last year. And hi, Akila. And it was just a time when I've always loved young people. I've always worked with teenagers. And it was just to find out their perspective. I normally tell them when I come on here, it's not for me to come and teach them anything. It's for us to hear the amazing things that young people do. And I'm always blown away. Every single one of my guests in the past 10 months, minus August because I didn't do anything over the summer. Every single one of them has been amazing. The things we have learned, and especially, the fact that I get parents on here and you suddenly realize that, my goodness, these young people have so much to say. And today I have another young person. Well, you know me, I've been bringing all the ones that I've known since they were young, since they were 12, 13-year-olds. And now they're in their 20s. I think my youngest has been about 18. I don't go below 18 because you've got to be a young adult. And most of them are now in uni, or some have finished uni, and the experiences they share about uni life, about being young in this time. And my most exciting one is when they talk about the relationship with parents. And it's always been so enlightening. It's always been so, it's just amazing. I love young people and I so much believe in them. So I don't want to talk too much because this is about somebody else tonight. I've got another young person whom I've known since she was about 13, I think, 12, 13. I'm just so glad for where she is at the moment. So when you're ready, I'm going to bring my guest on. Are you going to send me a request? Or if you don't send me a request, I'll bring you on. Yes. So are we ready? Okay, are you ready to send me your request, or do you want me to bring you on? I'm trying to bring you on. I can't. But me and tech, we have a love relationship. So do you want to send me a request? Yeah, there we are. There we are. Okay. Nova, that's one of my wonderful friends. Happy anniversary again. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Yes. Hello, girl.
Hiya.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing all right. You can see I'm excited. I'm always this excited. So don't be surprised if I'm shaking and I'm doing all
I'm
this.
shaking myself.
Oh my gosh, Bookie, I can't believe finally I got you.
I've been waiting.
You've been on my list since I started this, but you've been very, very elusive. But I knew that if I don't find the Holy Spirit will. So it's good to see you. Oh my gosh, this is my amazing guest, Bukunmi Kogbe. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Me, I will reveal the list, but you tell us the one you want people to know. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is my guest, Bukunmi. She's just going to introduce herself. Go on, girl.
Hi guys, my name is Bukunmi or Bookie, whatever tickles your fancy. I'm 21 years of age
Oh,
currently.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
No, sometimes it shocks me as well. I don't say my age
I know, it
out
shocked
loud.
me.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm currently a fourth year medical student at Cardiff University. I love God. I love to sing. That's me.
I know. Are you already in fourth year?
Yeah, it's scary.
Good Lord, okay. Fourth year, me? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh, so tell me, how has uni been? How has uni been? You're so far away in Cardiff, but how has uni
Everyone
been?
says that I'm not that far. I'm just out of the way, as I like to say.
Okay.
Um, Cardiff uni has been a good journey. I think a lot of people go to uni and they kind of choose, the area, the place, what kind of, vibes are there. Maybe it's good for my course and everything. And I think being able to really love my course has made me love university. I think I'm quite an independent person anyway. So like going to uni was always like a step that I knew I was okay for. I've met so many people. I've met really good friends, like really good friends, and I'm really proud to say that. Learned a lot about myself, maybe a bit too much about myself. Uh,
You were all by yourself. I don't think there's anybody there that was your friend before you got to. Is there anybody in Cardiff with you that came along with you from, you know?
no, no one. And that was
Oh,
something that I hadn't experienced before because from primary school to secondary school, I stayed in the same place. Secondary school to sixth form, I stayed in the same place. So uni was like the place where it's like, bye bye, like leave the nest, nobody, go. Yeah.
right. Oh my God. So how did you cope with that transition of, leaving the familiar, London and church and everything, and transitioning where you're like, I'm all by myself. How did you cope with that transition?
Um, I think I prepared myself. I knew I was going to be in a place that was not London. I realized that kind of late. I think it all came onto me like in one moment, like not like a panic attack, but I did have like a period of time where I was completely scared. Like I'm going to Wales, like I'm going to Wales, like everyone's in England, like what is this?
Yes.
Um, I think obviously I had good parents, I had a good upbringing. I think my parents instilled like morals, and I
Okay.
think I'm quite I'm very assured, I'm very self-aware. So I think that was a good like quality to take with me to uni. And I think knowing I do like my own company as well. So I thought if I don't make friends soon off, like as soon as I know I'll be okay for a certain period of time. That's what I told myself anyway.
Okay, that's what you told yourself. Okay, okay. Keep talking. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I think I just knew that I'm going to be in this place for a long time. So I'm going to make use of it. I'm going to make use of opportunities that come my way, try and stretch myself as much as I can. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so how long were you by yourself?
by myself, maybe like half a day. I don't know.
Okay, that's what I said. You telling me I want my own company and yeah, right.
I think because I love my own company so much, I really forced myself to actually like talk to people, go out of my way to say hi
Okay.
and like start conversations. I remember I was the only one in my flat for like the first 2 days. So I
Right.
was like, I put on like the house chat. I was like, hi, I'm by myself. Does anybody like want to chill or anything like that? I was like, if you don't do it, then you're gonna sit by yourself. Yeah, but obviously my course is huge. So
Yeah.
like I'm gonna meet people along the way, 100%, and those friends have actually stuck with me throughout. So yeah.
Okay. Amazing. So, was there anything that was like a shock to you when you got into uni? I mean, we all hear stories of uni. People go in, people go out, people go this way, people go that way. Was there anything that was like a shock to you that you were like, okay, I got to get my head straight about this going into this environment? Or you were like, oh, I got this covered.
I don't think I had it covered, but I think you hear so many like stories and horror stories. Like you're kind of just prepared, like for the people who didn't have like any kind of freedom when they were at home. So you know,
Yes.
uni was
Yes.
like, let's go. I'm going to do whatever I can whenever I can.
Yes.
I think seeing people from like who aren't from London, like there's a different like kind of approach people have, and like I didn't realize how much I sound and act like I'm from London. So seeing other people of like different backgrounds as well was really cool as well. What else? I think just seeing, I don't know what else I should say. What can I say?
How did you deal with it? Because I mean, no matter what, yes, shout out to your parents because obviously you had a good upbringing and all that. But how did you deal with the fact that okay, I'm on my own now, I can make my own choices, and I've got all this freedom? How
Um,
you know? I
I
mean, don't worry, we know people here on the Zoom, but this is our space.
think
How
just
did
being intentional, like knowing why I'm doing something. Like, am I going here because I want to meet new people? Am I going here because I want to be like surrounded by new things? Kind of being intentional with like people that I speak to as well. Like where am I going? Am I going to networks? I want to meet new people. These people are going to be different to me. If they ask me to do something like this, am I going to stand my ground, or am I just going to go with the flow? Am I going to like speak my truth? Am I just going to be quiet? I think as well, like especially with like living with people in flats, you kind of learn how to carry yourself in a way that is
okay?
not too like intimidating or kind of like
Intimidating
no like because I'm very
for
outspoken.
them to intimidate you, or for you to intimidate
No, you
them.
don't want to be intimidated because you may have learned something, you may have been brought up a certain way, and then you see something
Okay.
that kind of clashes with that. So learning how to react in those kind of situations is quite important as well, and that's something that you learn about yourself in uni. Yeah,
Okay. So you kind of like feel that you coped with it well.
I think I did. I hope I did.
Well, you're still there, and you're still
Yeah,
smiling, and your
yeah.
dad hasn't come to rescue you. So you
No.
must be you must be doing something right. Now, one of my guests earlier in the series talked about the fact that even in uni, people can be lonely, even though there are thousands of people there. Is
Mhm.
that something that you've ever experienced, or is that something that you've seen among uni people where there's loneliness and they're like, yeah, there are loads of people around, but it's just kind of like me.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's definitely easy to be lonely. Nobody is, if you're in a new place, especially, like no one has the responsibility to check up on you, which is very, very scary. Um, Sometimes like your flatmates may not be your only friends, so it's like they might have their own friends. Like you're not that accountable for each other, so it's very easy for someone to be in their room for like God knows how long, and no one's really checked up on them. There's also feeling like I like my own space. I don't want to go out. Before you know it, like I haven't seen anybody in like 3 days. Have I even opened my mouth to speak to anyone? Um,
That's
and
like the
it's also like,
lockdown, isn't it?
and it's like if you're around so many people, it can be a very, very overwhelming. So you may have the tendency to, draw back and not even realize it. So yeah,
Okay.
it's very easy actually. Yeah.
To
Especially
get
now, I think if we're like moving on to like a digital age and like lectures online, if you don't need to go to lectures, like you're not
oh
being forced
yeah,
to interact with people, you're not being forced to see people. Yeah.
yikes. I don't like the lockdown. I do like it. Okay, so that's all unigist and all that. Let's talk about life in general. So one thing I love asking, and I asked this basic question. Don't worry, like I told you, we're going to go completely off script. Now
Okay.
it's just to make sure you turn up. So I have to pretend like, yeah, you're not going to prepare for this, but really and truly, I'm not going to follow the script. But really and truly, as a young person these days, I mean, you're a young woman. I mean, you're in uni. You're intelligent. You're brilliant. You see things happening around you. I mean, from your own perspective, what do you think are the major challenges that young people your age are going through or experiencing or having to deal with at this time?
I think especially in this time, like we're in the kind of stages between like finding careers, like leaving university. So I think a big part is people being on different paths, being on different journeys, and the comparison within that, and knowing whether you're on the right path. Like it's kind of like it's the purpose question, like what am I doing? Is what I'm doing intentional? Is it God's will? Is it for me? And I think when we're young, we're still learning different parts of ourselves. So something that might actually be for me hasn't been revealed to me yet, and I've just got to be, obedient, and I've just got to like be okay with where I am. Like where I am is supposed to be, like is where I'm supposed to be at this moment, and being content within that.
So do you think there's a lot of looking at your contemporaries and thinking, oh my gosh, everybody seems to have gotten it together. I haven't. Do you think that's something that's playing around a lot with, I mean, your peers and the people in that kind of age sect? People kind of looking like, somebody's got it going on and maybe I haven't found myself yet.
100%. And I think obviously I'm going to say the buzzword, like with social media, I don't think we were actually like created to have so much insight to other people's lives. If you think about like, say we follow like 600 people on Instagram, I have insight to 600 people's lives. Like I don't need that. And when you see that, and social media is it's only showing you a highlight of what life is. You're not going to be showing what happens 24/7, and not many people are gonna highlight their fails or the negatives or the dips that they've had. If they do share that, it's usually when they've overcome it. So I think be able to see like the highlights of people's life makes you feel like, why isn't my life always like this? And you see people like thrive in areas that you may think, oh, I thought I was going to thrive in that area and I still haven't. And then you see it, you swipe and you scroll in and you find something else that I thought I was going to be like that, but I'm not. Or why can't I have that? And it's just endless, to be honest.
So that's creating some kind of unending pressure, isn't it? Let me make that a question. Does that actually create some kind of pressure on young people to kind of be there, be that, do that? That's how life actually is.
The thing is, I don't even think it's like an intentional pressure. I just think once you're surrounded by so much of the same thing, you only feel like you're supposed to conform to what that thing is. And the pressure doesn't necessarily come from outside. It kind of comes from within. I know there is a pressure from outside, definitely, but I think you can't forget about the pressure that we put on ourselves as well. And it's not always a conscious thing that we do.
So what kind of pressures do you guys put on yourselves? See, I'm very curious. I won't say I'm nosy, I'm just curious. I just want to know. So what kind of pressures does that create? And what does that make people do? Do you know? I mean, okay, I'm seeing this. I want to be like this. So have you seen, does that make young people now act in a particular way, go after some particular things?
I think maybe like in terms of like finances, like seeing somebody's making this particular amount of money and you're just thinking, well, what am I doing? Like, where's my passive income going to come from? Like, where's my side hustle going to come from? And it's like, I'm 21. Like, I've just entered my 20s. Like, I don't need to have it all together. So I think there's that. And then you just think that you're not enough. Like, why don't I have all of these like qualities of me? Like, why don't I have these kind of gifts that could make me open doors for me? Like, maybe it's financial, maybe it's just getting myself out there. I think also with like academics as well, for me as well, like if I'm on a certain, say if I'm on Twitter and I'm in like the medical student Twitter, seeing everyone tweet all their, accomplishments, and you're only thinking, wow, I actually haven't done anything. But no one's told me that I need to do that. Like nobody's told me like, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. But seeing so much of it makes you think that that is the norm, that is something that I have to strive for. And maybe that's not something that you have to strive for. Maybe that's somebody else's journey. And like, it's like you have to keep your eyes focused and stay in your own lane. Like when you're in other people's lane, there's traffic. Like you don't get to where you want to go.
Oh, I love that. You see, I always use these things. When you're on somebody else's lane, there's always traffic. Let me write it down so that when I'm thinking some deep message, they'll be just like, man, Aunty T's got, man, deep things. Right, that is true. I mean, always comparing and always thinking this is what you're supposed to, and there is a lot of pressure on you guys these days. I mean, from income to accomplishments and all that. So my question then is, how do young people deal with pressure? How do you guys, or maybe not you, not to be so subjective, but being objective about it. So where do you go? Who do you guys talk to? Where do you get the counsel that you need to deal with these kind of issues?
I think it obviously depends on the individual and like their personality traits. Are they somebody who is okay with being vulnerable? That usually kind of dictates where the person's going to go. Like, who are you okay with seeing your vulnerability? Also, so if you are okay with being vulnerable, I suppose people do go to their friends because of the accessibility. Like, who are you surrounded by? Who do you talk to every day? It's just easier to talk to those people. Mentors as well. Have they gone through the pressures that I've gone through? And usually when somebody is your mentor, you're seeing qualities in them that you admire. So it's like, if I go to you with this pressure, I know that maybe I admire like the way like you show joy through everything. I want to see that approach that you may have on this situation. People go to their parents as well.
Do they?
I know you're going to make this face, Aunty. I knew you were going to make this.
I'm going to tell you why I'm going to make the face, but go on. People go to their parents, okay?
Yeah, people do go to their parents. I think that's that coincides with the vulnerability part. Sometimes you don't want everyone else to see what you're going through. You kind of want to portray a certain part of yourself to the outside, and you rather keep it, in an inner circle, which usually is family or really close friends.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people, a lot of young people tell me, and I'm sure some parents who've been on this platform, but have heard a lot of them say young people don't go to their parents. They don't like his cousin. Sorry, daddy, this is no offense, but that young people don't like discussing their issues with their parents.
Yeah. I think it comes from
you're covering your dad and mom's ears right now.
This is not anything. I'm not talking personally.
Okay.
It could be from both factors. So if you look at it from the child's perspective, maybe they don't feel like that they have that type of relationship with their parent. Maybe their parent hasn't kind of shown that side to them, shown that insightful side, show that they actually care about, the innermost feelings of their child. It's not to say that they don't, but it's just that they haven't shown that. So how would the child know? Also think it's like with the disappointment, I don't want to come to my parents with this because they may be disappointed with me, like they've maybe raised me a certain way, so I don't want to let them down, and maybe thinking, this is only going to be for such a time, so why do I need to burden my parents with it? And it may make it a bit longer and a bit more of a big thing. Yeah. And then I think it's also with the bonding thing, like have the parent and child, like have they actually bonded? Maybe they haven't been able to see their parent as a confidant. Maybe they've only been able to see their parent in a light of like, do this, do that. I'm here for you. I'll pick you up here. Like, let's do this, let's do that. So I think it's really intentional to make bonding time with your child and let your child see your personality. And also I think really important is, how does your parent talk about situations, even if they're not about you? So say if it's something to do with mental health, like how do they talk about it when your child isn't involved? because that will dictate whether your child actually wants to talk to you about that thing. Maybe you've said, I don't understand why people are always sad. Like, what have you got to be sad about? Your generation haven't gone through tough times. That there is a red flag. It's like my parent will only make my problem seem inferior to whatever they've gone through. So it may not be like the parent has actually said, oh, like, this is what I feel about it. But the way the child has seen it from an outside perspective is like, I don't want my parents to act that way. So there's no point in me even going there.
Oh, right. So from what you're saying, you've got to bond with your parent. Or the parents, we have to make an effort to bond with our children. And then sometimes even the way we talk about issues will kind of sometimes dictate to our children whether they can approach us when those things are happening to them.
100%.
Right. Kem, my sister says the parents' mindset, the parents' view, how they respond to issues impact whether the young adults bring issues to them. That is so true. So actually, we've got to be a bit careful. We can't just toss our opinions at you guys, can we? Oh wow, that's true. But do you think that because you were talking about parents' perspective, do you think that parents can be vulnerable to their children? In other words, tell you what they've been through. Do you think it helps, or are we setting ourselves up for you guys coming back and throwing it in our faces?
I'm not sure. I think obviously it depends on like the age of the child. Do they require that knowledge right now? Like, are they actually going to use that knowledge effectively? Is it going to help them grow? I suppose when you get older, moving on to like university, like young adult age, it is quite helpful. I think we're only starting to, but I think we've become, more aware of our parents' human side. I think when we're younger, we just see them as our parent, we put them on a pedestal. We're not able to see that they are human first. If they weren't human, they would be able to be our parents. We don't see that first. So I think once a child gets to that age, I think it is quite useful knowing how the parent has dealt with things, knowing that they're not the only one. And it just makes your parents seem like more real, more humane, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, but will that, like I said, can we trust you with that? Because if your parent comes and says, I don't want you to steal because when I was young, I had very, interesting fingers. And one day you're like, Mom, you can't talk to me like that. You were a thief when you were a kid, So because sometimes as parents, you might think, am I sure they're going to be able to handle this? Or like you said, does that just depend on the age at which that child is, as a young adult or as a teenager?
Obviously, everyone is different. I think being able to, assess your child's like personality, like their traits. Are they somebody that is quite, not maybe quick-tempered? Maybe they don't always think before they speak. So maybe that might be, that like, maybe I shouldn't tell them that because they might throw it back in my face. Or being able to actually explain why you're telling them something. I think I'm telling you this, I've gone through this because I don't want you to make the same mistake. I'm not saying it so you can just relate with me. I'm saying it for this purpose. I think enclosing the purpose would probably help so it doesn't go like, a negative way. But I think maybe you need to test the waters, release it slowly. Just
release the easy ones first. I say, let me see how we can test you. Now, just staying on parents a little bit more. Sometimes parents come and they want you to do something. Okay. Do you think your parents owe you a duty? Should I use the word duty, or do they have to tell you why they want you to do something? Or is it okay just to... Sorry?
Do you have an example of what they're telling you to do? Or just, is it wash the plates? Is it don't go to this university? Don't go there?
Well, it can depend. What do your parents want us? Let me see, maybe for example, maybe I should put on my very indigenous African mommy head now. Maybe a parent comes to you and you're dating somebody and they're just like, you know what, he's just not good for you. And I know.
Do you
Oh,
think they owe you a duty to tell you why? Or can you trust your parents' judgment?
I didn't think it would be that heavy.
Well, you went too low. You
I
were
know,
talking
maybe I
about
should have
plate.
asked. I think in that situation,
Or maybe okay, if you don't want too heavy. Let's say study this, and I'd rather you go to uni and study this.
right. So I think in terms of that like educational situation,
Yes.
I think the child does deserve a reason why. Um, it's a decision that has, can look like it has time impact, like that is 3 years, 4 years, or in my case 5 years, of doing something, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right decision. It's not something that just requires a yes or no, or do this or do that. It has implications for future, choices, future prospects. So I think it is important to, tell them why you think that, even if your reasoning is not so strong, at least it shows the child that you've actually thought about why you've said yes,
Right.
and why you've said no. If not, they may feel like you haven't thought about it, so why should I honor your opinion in that sense? If you show that you've thought about it, there's 100% like it's more likely that the child is going to understand that and want to know more, and actually like step back, take a situation, like take a step back from the situation, and just analyze it in its entirety. Also, when you are able to give reasons, I think it can help with the child make further decisions. Oh, my mum said this because when I asked to do that, she said no because of this. Actually, that applies here. So it may help them for, future decisions, and not only that one. But I do
Okay.
believe in maybe smaller things, that not everything requires a reason.
Really?
Yeah, I think sometimes we want to know too much, but sometimes it is just a blanket statement. No, maybe I don't know. Maybe the spirit was telling me this, and that's all I have for you right now. And maybe that is okay. But I think in bigger prospects, I think it is important to have a reasoning for
Okay.
answers.
Okay, because sometimes some of your peers that have come have said, look, because you're a very, should I use the word analytical generation? There's so much critical reasoning. I don't know why that is a cause, but there's critical reasoning, analytical thinking, and all that. So you've all kind of like grown up with that um, reasoning, or that desire to always know why you should do something. You question everything. Is that right? Your generation questions everything.
Mm,
A
I
lot
don't
of
know.
things.
I don't know. I think.
Apart from
Oh,
when they say it's fashion or it's the trend, you guys don't question that. But when the parents say you should do this, you question it. So
um,
you don't think you don't think there's as much analysis and why should I do that? A desire to always know why.
I think we do have a desire to know why. I think we're just aware of a lot of stuff, and because we have insight to so many things, I think we can see things from more perspectives. So we probably
Okay.
want more of an answer. But that's a tough question. I'm going to have to think about that a bit more, because I don't have a sturdy answer.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't. You tell you. The why is the most important part of whatever you do. You see, that's the answer. I guess it depends. I think sometimes it may come across as parents insisting on their own way,
Mm,
and so some young people feel that come on, we also have the ability to reason, because some came and said no, 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 they have to tell me why. And I kind of like understood why. Maybe you're very obedient, and you're like, if daddy says this, then I'm going to do that. Not that I'm saying you are, but it is possible. And do you think, I mean, you come from an African background, okay, even though brought up born and bred in the UK, and all that. Do you think you've ever had to balance the two cultures, or have you always never had that challenge?
Oh,
If you haven't, it's
oh,
okay.
I
If
don't,
you
not nothing that springs to mind
okay.
right now. I think people would have the challenge, especially with like um, career prospects. And I think because I've taken quite a traditional route, I haven't had to, face that. But I think with the cultures, being aware that there's so many different paths now, and being aware that, as multi like faceted people, we are able to explore different things. We don't have to go down one route, because I think like in the older generation, like, and like Africa, like we just kind of, we have a job and then like we stay with that job and then we kind of progress, and then, but like
We're
in
learning now. We're learning to change jobs now.
no, we really are.
We're learning.
So I think children, or this generation of like young adults, are like more likely to, kind of maybe stop something and then start something new. Maybe parents
Yeah.
don't wonder, why are you doing that when you're doing so well in this, but it's like, no, I want to explore other paths. I think that's probably something that comes up quite a lot.
In terms of the culture, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, you haven't had any like culture clash and all that. You just had a good blend of both.
Um, I think so. Like my mum did spend like up to like her teenage years here as well. So I think that's always brought the balance anyway. She's been able to see, you know, both sides. And I think
Okay.
especially like with discipline, I think hi daddy, yeah. But I think like my dad is more likely just to say something and not give a reason. Whereas my mum usually gives the reason. I think that may come from like the culture blend as well.
Ah,
So I
okay.
think I've been able to see different like differences in that with both my
Okay.
parents. Yeah. So I think being
Okay.
able to talk to your child more about why you're making certain decisions is quite a big factor and a big difference.
Okay, so gradually you're coming to that now. That really it does help. It
Mm.
does well for your generation. It does help you. My generation was I because I said so, and you learn to live with that. Okay, so do you think that I don't know why we're staying on parents a lot, but I'm kind of like liking it. Do you think that there is a language barrier between the old generation and your generation? We both speak English because I'm not saying that we both speak English, but I think, do you think that there's a language barrier? That there's some things you say that we don't understand, and some things we say that you guys don't understand, even though we both speak the same language?
I mean, in terms of like slang, I suppose so. There's a difference in that.
Yeah, I remember somebody coming and talking about, I've got to get the Birkin bag. I was like, which
Yeah,
one is it?
I think especially with social media, there's like different like memes and just topics that like require certain type of language. If you're not there in the moment, you just won't understand. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I think slightly there is, but when you use it so much, your parent kind of be like, "What's that?" You say it once, be like, "Oh," and they'll try and use it, and it's like that's not correct. Like I
So we
remember when
shouldn't try.
it was when like the words lit and dope were coming out, and there was more of like an American thing, and then I saw people starting to use it here, like the older generation. I just thought, no, no. But
You
yeah,
mean I should just start saying, oh, that was lit?
yeah, that
Okay.
wasn't nice, right?
But we were trying to,
No, and I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge that, and
I
I
never
think
used it. I can understand it, so. Okay. All right. Okay, let's just move.
so.
That really cracks me up. You know, we can't really win with these people, can we?
No,
When
but
we try to
we
talk like him,
admire
we
that,
just
like we admire that you actually try. You try, and you may see that it's not for you, and then you stop, and all is well in the world again. Yeah.
but we tend to sound like wannabes, don't
Small, small.
we? Okay, we'll stick to the Queen's English that we know. Okay, we're not going to be litting and so
No.
saying things are sick and saying there that. Okay, all right. So, I mean, going through all that, what is a way if I said, what is one thing that you would love if you had the opportunity to get all the parents in us older generation? I hate it when they call me the older generation, honestly. But
The former
honestly,
generation
the,
preceded.
the generation ahead of you guys, and parents, if you could tell us one thing that we could do to help your generation, what is one thing you would ask us to do for you guys?
Um, Show interest.
Mm,
Be aware that there may be differences, but be open to, learning about those differences. It makes it a lot easier. So your child doesn't feel like they're not going to understand me anyway, or they've never really asked me. I don't need to even bother. Also, just like knowing your child, like get to know their personality, set time aside just to chill and let your child experience like freedom and just like releasing themselves in terms of like just their personality, their kind of their traits, their qualities, being able to see that. I think once you're able to see that, you can communicate effectively.
okay.
Yeah, I think because like my brother and I are quite like different in that
Yeah.
sense. So like I think my parents are able to see that and they talk to us differently, which is like that's appropriate in certain situations. So being able to see that like I'm not treated the same as him, therefore I can have more effective conversations and something might be more effective for my brother. So not treating all your children the same. There's no comparison either. So there's like I feel like my brother and I we don't get compared. Like there's some stuff that's just because I'm an older child that I will tell him. But I think my parents are able to establish that we're different people. And yeah, I think that's quite important. Yeah.
Wow, well said. So we should show interest. We should be interested. So it's not so much about what we think is good for you, but to listen to you guys as well.
100%. I think as an older person, you've gone through more of life. So you are going to have more wisdom. You're going to have more life lessons. You're going to have made more mistakes that we don't have to go through. So I think in any relationship, it's important to know that you can learn something from the older person and you can learn something from us as well. Being aware that you're not going to know every single thing because life has changed. There are going to be things that your children do need to teach you.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. All right. That is so that's quite profound, you know. We should we should show some more interest in what you guys have to say,
Mm.
and that is very important. So parents, listen to the children. Let's
And
listen.
having
Let's
those
listen to
open
them.
conversations, not necessarily to make them personal to your child, but like I said, like how do you discuss like mental health just as an open conversation when nobody's involved? If you start to do that, you kind of test the waters and you're able to just get that slight insight from your child. Maybe they'll feel more comfortable coming to you next time because they already know how you feel about it as their child. You know how like you kind of know what you want to expect from your parents and how you want them to respond. So I think that kind of gives them like pointers in that direction anyway if you have those open conversations. And it's just
Okay.
making sure everything's like relaxed. It doesn't need to be like a deep
Heavy.
conversation, no TV, like let's all sit down and discuss this today. It doesn't have to be like that.
You don't have
But
to have a seminar.
yeah, it doesn't have to be like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I think that's true because it goes back to the fact of letting your children know that they can come to you because you can talk about it.
Yeah,
It's
because you
like
can
that
talk about it. Yeah.
because you can talk about it, there's no
Mm,
like forbidden subjects. And I
mm,
think sometimes because of the like you said, the feelers that have been thrown out and you've seen your parents, raise some very strong opinions about it. If you
mm,
dare be in that situation, that's a no-go area.
mm.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's very interesting. That's very important to know
Yeah.
actually. So, I mean, let's discuss everything. They know, they know the topics, and we should stay off the slangs. Okay. Right. What about if you could say something to your contemporaries, the 21, the 22-year-olds, if you could say something to your contemporaries, to your peers, those who are in that kind of like age set, or I mean, most of your peers now who are not studying the long drawn courses are now out of uni.
Mm,
So all the people that in that kind of sect, and I know some of your friends on here now are actually finished uni, what is one thing that you would love to tell them? What is one thing you would say to that particular age range or a life range, if I could use that phrase?
I think I'd say it to myself as well, but just feel the fear and just and do it anyway, appropriately, obviously. Like nothing to like, anything that compromises your health. But don't be scared to try new things. Don't be scared to go out of your comfort zone. I think it's very easy to feel like I'm doing well because I'm doing something that I'm comfortable with. Whether instead of doing something that you're not too comfortable with and learning something from that and growing from that, I think sometimes we just get a bit too scared of doing something wrong and not maybe having it all together anymore because, I failed at that point. But, that's the way we learn. Like we can't grow when we do something the same all the time. And being aware there's so many different paths in life. So don't feel like, Sally's path is not your path. It's okay if she's reached that place. Maybe she hasn't broadcasted an area that she's struggling with that you are actually doing okay at. Being able to take a step back and there's certain points in our lives where we're always comparing ourselves to other people that we don't even realize like the place that we're at is somewhere that we might have prayed for, and we're not taking time to actually appreciate that we're already looking ahead, and we're not like taking time to be thankful and like show gratitude for the situation that we're already in.
So celebrate your milestones, but don't be afraid to experiment. Do you think this is a good season? I mean, that age range, that age set where you guys are, it's a good time to, like you said, try new things.
100%.
Don't get stuck.
I think it's one of the best times. I think we've learned so much about ourselves. We've learned like, maybe what we're not so good at that, or maybe I don't like that. I think when you're younger, we haven't been exposed to as much. So we feel like we like everything, and sometimes we just like we don't know what direction to go in.
Yeah.
But I think coming to this age, we've gone through uni, sixth form, secondary school. There's been things that we've realized that we like, that we don't like. We've been able to kind of like put that to the side, be like, I want to focus on these things. Now is the time to make mistakes, and like don't let your age kind of put you out. Maybe I'm too old, or maybe I'm too young. If I do this, I'm going to be like 26, and the time I reach it, you're going to be 26 no matter what, even if you don't do it. So just go for it anyway.
Yes. I like that. I mean, you're going to be 26 whether you do it or not. So might as well go ahead and do it. Amazing. I like that. Experiment, reach out. I mean, you've learned much. So we've talked to the older generation and what you would love us to do. You've talked to your contemporaries, and it's a good time to branch out, experiment, more about yourself. So you've been through your teenage years, and looking back, I mean, I was privileged to see quite a bit of your quite a lot of your teenagers. All of your teenage years, yes. So what is one thing, or not one thing, what would you tell teenagers now if I could bring you back into, maybe the youth group you used to go to, and say, talk to the 13-year-olds, to the 18-year-olds. What are the things you would love to say to them?
Take time to fall in love with yourself. I think sometimes, I don't know if it's maybe when I'm looking at stuff, but I think sometimes at a certain age, having self-confidence, having, a good self-image of yourself can come across as like, pompous and vain. Like if you love yourself too much, it's going to come across as a bit vain. But I think it's so important to, there's something called main character syndrome. Yeah. So main character syndrome is when you think everything's about you. Like you don't really take time to, acknowledge other people. But still have main character energy. Be intentional with the things you do. Find out your likes and your dislikes. Say if you're watching a series, like a TV program, you kind of know what the main character is going to do because they spent time to develop the main character. So take time to develop yourself. Realize how you act in certain situations. Realize how you navigate friendships. Realize what you like and what you don't like, and be okay with that. And also finding a way to like make your self-confidence based on like objective truth. If you base it on things that are always changing, you're never gonna reach a place where you feel content in that. For me, that is through scripture. That is the objective truth. Like that is not going to change. So if I base it around that, I'm going to be a lot more stable in terms of my self-confidence, my self-esteem. I think that's the main thing. Have some main character energy. You know, take time to develop yourself.
Main character energy. Fall in love with yourself. See, I'm going to use all those things. So if one day you hear me talking somewhere, you stole my statement. There's none of that. Main character energy. And you said something about basing it on an objective truth, something that doesn't, because sometimes, maybe teenagers base their validation on stuff that can be quite transient. Maybe it might be on the fact that you've got good stuff at that point in time, or you feel that you look good at that point in time, or you've got a gift at that point in time. And that is not really your main energy. What did you call it again? Your main character energy, is it? It has to be something that comes from within.
Yeah, I think if you're basing it on things that keep changing, you will never be satisfied. You just won't be satisfied. And then it's like one day being skinny was the thing. So if I kept saying, everyone is always saying like be skinny, like size 8, size 10, that's what you kind of want to be. And that's what I strive to be. And then now it's like being thick. So now I'm going to have to change my perception of what beauty is again, because like society has changed that. And who knows what's going to be in fashion in the next 5 years. If you keep trying to chase it get tiring, and you will be tired. If you base it on objective truth, like I am made in God's image, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, in 5 years time that truth is not going to change. If you based it on that, you're not going to be chasing images at all. Yeah.
So for the young people, main character energy, fall in love with yourself. That's amazing. All right, as we're gradually winding up, you've talked a lot about it. I mean, you've inserted it into a lot of the conversation we've been having, but what part does your faith play in your life, in everything you do?
A lot. And I've realized one of the recent decisions and I've had to make, that it plays so much importance in my life. I think I'm someone who internalizes quite a lot. I don't like to talk to people about a lot of stuff, and I kind of just want to go through it by myself, which I'm learning gradually, to come out of. But so God was always the person that I vented to, or I always spoke to. And I think when you internalize it, sometimes you're not able to see it for what it is. So I've also started journaling and talking to God, being able to make my thoughts more tangible. And being able to just acknowledge God in the small things, because when you acknowledge him in the small things, you see him in those small things. If you don't acknowledge him, you won't be able to see him, because you can't remember if you even spoke to God about that. So you're not even trying to think about what God has told you. And also knowing that his voice can come in like a small whisper. It's not always going to be a booming sign that is just dropped. So taking time to seek solitude as well, be able to have that quiet time with God. And that's when you will hear that still small voice. I think that's what has really come into play in my life in most recent times. But God's always been there. I'm just learning about him more and more. So yeah.
Amazing. So he's still part of every single part of everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
You can do.
I can't do my own strength, so he's got to be what's our fault.
Yeah, we learned that. We learned that. I mean, yes, acknowledge him in the small things, and then the big things don't look so big anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. One thing we haven't touched about is your singing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is where I'm going to reveal a little bit of how I know her. So you were part of my choir as a teenager, and you were so amazing at it that and you were also the lead for the choir for how long? About 2 years?
think it was like 2 and a bit or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you've
yeah.
been there for quite a while. Yes, and all that. And I did watch you transition from somebody who wasn't always so confident about yourself to become somebody who actually led a group of
Mm.
very interesting teenagers. Which was so amazing, and is one of the things that makes me so proud of you because you did it so well during that period, and I watched the transition in real time. Um, and so, having said that, I'm showing quite a bit of pride. How have you been doing with your singing? Have you still
Um,
been doing it?
oh yeah. I'm still singing. You can't shut me up.
Where? Where have you
um,
been singing?
so first year I joined the gospel choir in uni. And then second year and third year, I was president of the gospel choir for those 2 years. I
Come on.
know the way you had to drag me to be lead of love music, and then I'm just doing it either out of my own will. I saw God's hand on that. Um, Also in like Cardiff, part of like a music ministry. So that's been good, like being able to see people outside of uni, like outside of my age bracket as well. That's been amazing. And I've sang a bit in church, but I'm gonna try more when I get back to Cardiff. But yeah.
Okay, so you're still, well, I mean, that makes my heart glad anyway, because you're still doing your music. And are you planning to do anything big about it, or is it just going to be the ministry that you do, or are you going to be like the singing, medic, or the musical physician or something like that?
Um, I don't know. I've never really thought about taking it to big places. I know it's part of my ministry. It's part of my evangelism, and whether that touches one person or two people or thousands, I'm not really too bothered. It's part of my hobby as well, so I don't want to make it into something so serious that I don't have anything to have fun with anymore. But
Oh,
yeah, I like it where it
oh.
is at the moment. I'm not shying away from that gift that God's given me.
Please, somebody said she should go big. Just
Ellen,
remember
come on,
me.
man.
Aunty is right there if you decide to go big. But honestly, I mean, it's been amazing. It's been really, really amazing talking to you.
Yeah, had fun. I was so
And
scared. My hand is
I
shaking down here.
know. But I'll pull you. I will find you. I mean, one thing for people who don't know, one thing that I normally tell my young adults is I've never believed in shyness.
Yeah.
I always say that. I don't believe anybody is shy, especially if you have a gift and God has put something on the inside of you. Shyness is really a waste of time, really, because I'll make you do it anyway. And I was really looking forward to this one as well. And look, I mean, you have been amazing. I mean, we've learned a lot of stuff from you, which is how it should be. And I know that parents who have been on this as well have learned some things. You don't have to have a seminar to have a conversation. Begin to talk about those so-called areas, where we'd always thought, yeah, I don't need to discuss that. They should know, or God forbid, that kind of thing. We found out these days that God forbid doesn't mean that our children might not have issues with mental health,
Mm.
or get themselves into sticky situations. But if we just have the wisdom to be able to sit with them and, like you said, have these conversations, and with the teenagers, main character. What's
Energy,
the
not syndrome.
main character energy? Thank you. Oh God, what did you play? Don't worry. Main character energy. Fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with yourself. And for the young adults, 21-year-olds, 25-year-olds, this is the time to experiment. Don't settle.
Mm.
If you love it, if you try it, because whether you try it or not, like she said, if you're thinking, oh, I'll be 26 before, but by the time I do it, you're going to be 26 anyway, and you might not have done it. And the importance of your faith. I mean, do you have any other last words apart from telling me how great I look?
No, that's the main thing. That's the main thing. No, I think I've said enough.
All right, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations on how far you've come. I really look forward to great things from you. I look forward to you graduating and having that doctor in front of your name. And I think, yes, and I think it's really a privilege to actually have watched your journey. It always seems like, yes, you've just got teenagers and you're just trying to, but having watched, and I say this for every single one of you guys that I've been able to talk to for the past, my previous 18 and now you, is having watched you all go through your teenagers and then see you guys as 20-year-olds and all doing really well. I celebrate your parents. Thank you so much, Dad and Mom, for doing a great job and continuing to do a great job. Yeah, we love them. And thank you to you for staying the path and staying the course. And I know that God will continue to uphold and strengthen you as you remain faithful. And as you said, his voice you would always hear his voice as long as you open your ear out to him. So thanks everyone. For those I did acknowledge, I know my sister joined. I know Yemni, you joined. I know Micah, I saw you. Quite a number of people joined, but sorry, we were just engrossed in what we were talking about. But we'll be back again in 2 weeks with I've got another amazing young adult joining me in about 2 weeks again. And we'll be having another interesting conversation. As the parents and the older ones can see, these young people are just amazing. They make my heart glad. Like I always proudly say, you guys are my heroes. So Bukunmi, love you, girl. All the best. And look forward to great things coming from you. To everyone else, bye everyone, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. Bye.